Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of Future Proof, the podcast where we are discussing how SaaS and B2B leaders across the various industries are changing the landscape and future-proofing their business. So if you're looking to future-proof your business, you're definitely in the right place. And before we jump into today's episode, for everybody that listens to the podcast, our core company and brand is Deploy AI. We build revenue generating systems and AI automations for companies and for various solutions. So if you're just looking to figure out where AI might fit in your business, the first thing we do is a quick assessment to figure out where it might fit in. There's a link in the show notes always for a 15-minute call with us, and we'll see if there's a way we can help. But let's jump into today's episode. I'm joined today by Bryan Larson, VP of Integrated Services for Pro Electric. Bryan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Brett. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. So as we always do, let's jump in. We call it leader's journey. Talk to us about your background and career leading up to into working with Pro.
Sure. I took a little bit different approach when I first kind of got into this industry. I spent a couple years in the field working as a technician, which really kind of helped determine that my course of career path at that particular time. So I spent a couple of years in the field, ended up deciding that I'd like to be more involved or more at the higher end level of this industry. So I decided to pursue my electrical engineering degree. Once I graduated there, I moved on to a large electrical contract that was based out of Kansas City and spent a good solid 10, 15 years with that company. And then once I kind of hit that cap at that particular location, I decided to make another jump to another contractor, which eventually led me into a opportunity to really put my electrical engineering skills to work, working as a VP of implementation for a large software company that was in the startup industry and helped them design the hardware infrastructure that their software set on. That company eventually sold, and now I had another opportunity here to come with Pro Electric to help kind of rebuild their integrated services division, but also kind of help them implement and roll out new software and products to help them go to market in a more efficient and utilizing more recent technology that's available out there in this industry.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Fantastic. So for everybody out there, educate them a little bit on Pro Electric and kind of what you guys do and who you serve.
Yeah, so Pro Electric's been around since the 70s. We have a kind of a multitude of services that we offer. We have electrical construction services. We are basic, bringing power into buildings and power distribution within buildings. We have the integrated services division, which is the side of the company I'm responsible for, which handles a lot of the technology aspects of the construction, anywhere from computer networks to video surveillance, access control, all the different systems you see inside of buildings that make the building function on a day-to-day basis. We have a service department, which handles a lot of our existing service customer base and that kind of thing. But we also have a controls department, which does a lot of industrial controls, robotics, automation, things like that. So we really are kind of like a one-stop shop when it comes to electrical contracting, being able to offer all those different services, platforms, and expertise to our clients.
No, it's fantastic. I love it. So tell us a little bit about how the industry is evolving and changing, and then we'll obviously get into the emerging tech.
Sure. It's interesting. When I first got into this industry, it was, there was a lot. We were still using fax machines. Let's just put it that way. So when we needed to get a bid in, we were faxing the bid in. Email was coming around obviously at the time, but it was, it really has kind of come full circle. So you really had some basic concepts. You're counting with clickers and highlighters, and you're printing out drawings. You're doing a lot of things that aren't very efficient. And honestly, at the end of the day, cost-wise, you're spending a lot of money printing paper and buying additional office, tools that aren't necessarily needed. Now, today, what you're seeing is a lot of that stuff is being fully integrated together. So now you have an estimating software, which you can actually use AI in certain aspects to help with the counting, the evaluation of the documentation that you get to bid or that you're reviewing for a customer. We can take that estimate information and integrate that, push that into our accounting software, which creates the budget. So the guys have the project managers and our field personnel have the information they need to be able to do the project start to finish, and all the hours they have in the job, the cost of materials, all those types of things. And then we
Right.
have a project management software, which basically kind of houses everything for the project, whether it's the set of drawings that the guys need for building the job or any kind of questions or changes that may come associated with the project, all kind of get housed together. And all three of these systems kind of meld, so that way they're pushing information constantly in between each other, so we can have real-time information to understand where the projects sit, accurately and in real time. And that's super helpful for the project managers out there in the field. Helps them identify problems quick. It helps them
Right.
address them and move forward there. So it's pretty fascinating to see the transition.
Oh yeah, and I can imagine that if you look at your end-to-end timelines, how much that's starting to shrink, right? Because how long did an estimate used to take, right,
Correct.
versus how long it takes now with the use of some of this technology.
Yeah. That's great. Great point. It would take you sometimes weeks and sometimes months, depending on the size of the job, just to be able to get the takeoff done because you're doing everything by hand. Now I
Right.
can feed the drawings into an AI model or some kind of a software that utilizes AI, counts the drawings in a matter of seconds. It's fascinating to see.
And I know nothing's perfect, right? So how much tweaking has to happen typically? I mean, the fact that you can get it that fast, that first draft, you get 80% of the way there, right? Which is
Correct.
phenomenal, right? But in your experience, how much tweaking has to happen after that? Because everyone always asks that question, is like, how close does it get you there?
Yeah, I will say this: the AI models that I'm seeing now, especially on the estimating side, they still have a little ways to go. A lot of this has to do with image recognition. Searchable text always seems to be the fastest and most cleanest way to do a really good takeoff.
Right.
So it just really depends on how good that particular model is when you feed the data in. But what I'm seeing is to get you, like you said, it gets you about 80% of the way, Brent. But at the end of the day, you still have to have that human element. There's those little nuances that you have to think about, like, okay, what is the construction schedule? What are some of the job conditions that we're going to have to deal with? So there's still those aspects that you can't necessarily build into AI that do take that human element to make some evaluations on. And then at the end of the day, you're just going to decide how much money you want to make on this job, and that's the way that things are going now. That's going to be the difference between making or breaking to getting the job.
Wow. And but the good part is you probably have more data to make better decisions than ever before, right? Because the saying that we've gotten from several of our founders is so funny. It's they're like, we have so much data, we're data rich but insight poor. I think what you're talking about is that this is now making you able to leverage that data and make better data driven decisions, right? And then to get to the real thing is, how much do we want this job? Right. Which means
Correct.
you can tweak your model accordingly.
That's correct. That's correct. It's we know what it takes to keep the lights on in the company, right? Those are all given.
Right.
We all understand, hey, we've got a certain amount of overhead that we have to make. But you're right, to that point, when you get the documentation, everything, you feed all that information in, it's really just a matter of, okay, how do we want to approach this? Like, is there a little nuance here that we could do differently that would maybe set us apart from our competition and make our number that much better? So I mean, there's still a lot of the technical aspects that you have to think about when you're putting those together, but it really does get us to the point where you have a lot of good data to use, so you can make good decisions on which direction you want to go.
Yeah. And before the podcast, we were talking about a bunch of the systems that you have integrated, right, to where that you're doing some things in a much more unified approach, probably than a lot of folks in your industry. Because again, we've talked to some, and we know how siloed all industries are, right?
Absolutely.
So talk to some of our audience about what you're doing and what your vision is for unifying a bunch of this stuff.
Sure. So really from our perspective, a lot of things start with the estimate. So having the estimator and utilizing the software, a lot of our stuff is built around Trimble's suite of projects. And what we do is we start with the estimate. We build the estimate out. We code it properly so we understand like the different components of the job. as far as it breaks down. There's always a certain flow in construction, from the time that they're prepping the site to when they're building the walls to when they're painting the walls. There's these different
Right.
aspects of the construction piece of it. So taking that data and having it sent into building out a proper estimate, so you can really kind of evaluate, okay, these certain areas, does it make sense? Does it kind of flow with existing historical data that we have? And how does that model really work? And then we can really make some good decisions based upon that estimate. Now, once we have that estimate completed, if we're awarded the project, then the nice thing that we can do now is we can push that data that's coded, developed, and kind of broken down through different stages of the project into our accounting software. And that immediately just creates a budget off of a push. A lot of times, at least in the past year, when I first gotten here, a lot of it was manual data entry. We were using
Yeah.
spreadsheets to get from our estimating to our admin assistants, who would then manually enter into our accounting system. So you're being more efficient, taking process flows out. So we move that into our accounting software. And from there, we also have a project management piece that ties back into accounting. This way we have kind of real-time data, so we know when our material invoices are getting paid. We know when we have outstanding material on a job, so we can really kind of start forecasting the job a little bit better clip than what we could have in the past. The other
Yeah.
thing that helps us do too is it helps us to identify kind of issues in areas where there could be potential problems. For instance, let's just say we have 100 hours in for a particular cable pull, and it took 150 hours, and we catch that early on because we're in the cable pulling phase, which is still early on in the project, and it helps us
Right.
identify those risks and things and help mitigate that as we move forward, and just gives you a real-time tracking mechanism where the job sits overall, and you can take that information and back into the construction schedule and really get a good defined layout on how the projects function. So melding all those systems together to where they're communicating and giving personnel real-time data. And I shouldn't say real-time, you're always kind of a week behind on payroll because you have the guys work a week, they get paid for
Right.
the next week. So you do have a little bit of that there. But if you have 40 guys on a project site, what you have to cover for payroll for that week, so you can kind of back in and forecast a little bit. So it just helps to streamline a lot of that communication and get information out to everybody faster than we've ever experienced in the past.
Yeah. Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. So you highlighted a few things about how AI is helping on the front end, right? With the estimations, right? Where else do you see emerging tech like AI, automations, right? Helping and affecting the industry in general, helping you guys, but certainly how it's going to affect the industry.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, the one nice thing I will say, a lot of people talk about AI and how they're taking over jobs. The industry that we're in, you still have to build the buildings. You still have to construct those
Yeah.
types of things. So there's still a lot of jobs, and honestly, there's a shortage in that area of the workforce in the United States, which hopefully we can continue to kind of grow that aspect of it. But
Yeah. That's a
what we
big one.
see that well, just streamlining communications faster from an AI perspective, making sure that things are, a lot of times in construction, we can be a little rough around the edges with each other. So the other nice thing too about AI is especially when it comes to some of the products out there like Copilot and things like that, can help you kind
Yep.
of clean up your communications with end users or engineers, architects, the whole overall process. So you're not just hot shot firing things out that shouldn't necessarily be going out. So there's
Right. Right.
that kind of aspect to it, which I think a lot of people are most commonly known to use these days. But really, just speed to project delivery is really kind of what you're seeing there. So we're seeing a lot of these different workflows, a lot of these different things start to kind of meld together, not just with kind of the things we're doing at Pro with a lot of our software integrations, but being able to interface that with what the general contractor is doing. So now you got an overall project communication stream that's happening, and a lot of the AI models that communicate between them are great for developing the different APIs and those types of things to help those software packages communicate a lot better. So
Yeah.
you see it being used in a lot of different ways, and it's kind of exciting to see where things may go in the future and how that gets built out.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think communications is a big one, but also basically work management, right? Of seeing, like you were talking about, when you look at an end-to-end process and seeing where it might be able to anticipate where some of the delays can happen, where some of the issues can happen, but also giving management a much better view of where each of the projects, right? If you have 30 projects going on, right, that's a lot. where I see it, I love what you call, the term co-pilot. We call them digital coworkers here,
Yeah.
but that's where co-pilot came from. Is how do we use this technology to make our good employees 2 to 5 times better, right? And it's just giving them tools that just never existed before. And so to me, I agree, Bryan, it's really exciting.
It is. And I will tell you this too. What I've also found out, especially in our industry, because a lot of what we do and the people in our industry, it's a little old hat. Like, they're
Yeah.
used to kind of setting their ways. This is how we've always done it. We're not really going to change that much. So they almost look at AI as like we're cheating. You're using that, you're cheating a little bit. And
Right.
to me, I'm like, if you're not using AI, you're going to be catching the pack, because you need to be out in front of it, understanding how it works. How can it make your workflows better? Like for me, just helping me
Exactly.
kind of understand certain, you can ask it to do all kinds of different things, from writing a script that I could run real quick on a computer. I'm not a computer programmer, but I know enough about
Right.
compilers and those types of things to be able to build a small little program to do things that I want to do in the background, that there are monotonous steps that we kind of streamline. So just looking at that overall of how it can impact the overall workflow within the business is a powerful
Right.
tool.
Really powerful. And I think that's one of the things is one of the themes that came out of our podcast in general. And we've done, I think, 175 episodes to date. And what the neat part is seeing the insights that come out of that. And you highlighted one of the big ones there, which is AI is not IT, because you can be in a different department and do what you just talked about, right? You're not a coder, but something that would have blocked you and you would have had to go to IT before. Now you can have ChatGPT or Claude or whatever give you a little script to get you over that hump so you're more productive and you can do it really fast, right? And other things like research. And I think that's one of the little nuances that a lot of folks miss. And I think that you highlighting that of, hey, I'm not a coder, but I something that would have blocked you is not blocking you now. And I think those are the little things, especially in slower to adapt industry like building and construction, like you guys are in, and all the home services areas. It's really fascinating to like your take, because I think you're right. I think you're really going to be behind the curve if you don't embrace AI first.
That's correct. There's just so many different things, it's, even as simple as figuring out how to build a spreadsheet, just the kind of some of the there's a lot. I think you and I both know that even if, just simple spreadsheets can be pretty cumbersome,
Yeah,
but, there's really
absolutely.
cool things you can do if you understand what you're trying to do and you understand how to ask AI to help with that. That's
Yeah.
always been a fascinating element of AI. If you just talk to it and you have a conversation and you try to describe what you're trying to do, how much it can truly help you. Even like the National Electrical Code or Bixby standards, a lot of those type of things, you'll be amazed at how much knowledge has been put into the different AI models and where you can grab and go, especially if you need a quick
Right.
reference. You're not digging through a code book that's, 3-4 inches thick.
Yeah. It's so funny. I always ask people, like, before AI, right? How much did you Google every day?
Yeah,
Right. Like you were
right.
saying, like if you were going to have to go look up, one of the, boards or, one of the authority sites for electrical or anything in your industry, right?
Right.
Versus today, how much do you ask ChatGPT before you Google something, right? Because it's going to it's going to whittle all that stuff down. You don't have to go searching for 10 sites to go find what you're looking for. It's just going to go to the place where you want it to go to first.
That's right. That is a powerful tool, especially when you're trying to find quick references on certain things. I'll have my guys, if they're having a technical issue in the field, I have them run it through ChatGPT first. See what it tells you. Kind of give you some point of reference to start to think from, and then work it from there. It's good.
And sometimes it gives you suggestions like, hey, did you try this? Did you try this? And
Exactly.
you're like, wow, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a grounding issue on a system that we put in one of the hospitals here. And it was just eating our lunch, and we were like, let's just ask AI and see what it says, see what it has to say about it. And we walked it through it, and it's like, oh, you know what? Here's what was going on. We obviously, engineering wise, it just gave us that more narrowed down focus on, let's focus on this one issue, and boom, we solved that problem. It was pretty fascinating. It's a powerful tool.
Yeah. Yeah. Everyone knows it can do some of the email copy and marketing copy and all that. But that, to me, that's just like, I think everybody can do that. That's not what it's those things that you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
How do we help How do we have it help us solve problems faster, easier, and more comprehensively?
That's it. That's it. And I think really
Yeah.
just understanding how to use it and having a conversation with it, and asking it, just ask it anything and see where it
Yeah.
takes you from there. It's troubleshooting a
Yeah.
problem, whether it's writing an email or it's writing a small script of code. Ask it and see what it can provide you.
Right. Right. Usually more often than not, you're going to get a better answer than you even expected.
That's correct. That's correct.
So,
That's correct.
Bryan, let me ask you this question. Looking at Pro, you have a lot of probably things on your roadmap, right? Personally, in your role. If I gave you a magic wand and you could use AI to help you with one thing, right? One thing that's either going to help you change something, make something go faster, what would that be?
That's a good question. If I could wave my wand and have that kind of out there, I'm going to be honest with you. For us, it's nice to have all the systems and stuff integrated. And that's just kind of like the natural flow of things. But if really what we need is we need a way to help build our workforce, right? And I don't know that AI is what the capabilities or what things could happen. But if you really want to wave that magic wand and say, hey, how can we better educate, the kids coming out of high school, or people that that have been in the military, different aspects of these things. I understand, college got me to where I'm at today, but also not going to college helped me get to where I'm at today. It's kind of a fascinating
Exactly.
process. So, I think if we could figure out the best way to communicate to everyone these days, we need people that can build this stuff, and a lot of times, everybody sees, a plumbing contractor or these data say, I'm not going to do that. Or they see, guys laying concrete or digging dirt or laying roads, which are all necessities and good, infrastructure,
Great jobs. Yeah.
labor jobs that we need. But we need technical people that understand the technical aspects of what we do, because we are out in the forefront building this digital future right now, every single day, and having people that understand that, hey, we also need people in that realm that can help build this stuff would be fascinating to be able to figure out how we could develop that a little bit better.
Yeah, I love that answer. And it's funny because we talk about this all the time, is that, they call it the gray tsunami, right? Where we have the baby boomers that are retiring and that they're taking a lot of great knowledge with them that's not being necessarily transferred to the next generation because there's not enough workers coming into the workforce. But then compounded is that everyone thinks, hey, I want to go get, just a regular, office job, right? They're not
Right.
thinking through exactly what you talked about, where we need people in all of the types of trades, and we need technical people that can help build. Because if you think about the AI, just the AI, the infrastructure that empowers AI, we're building more data centers than anything out there. We're building more warehouses to ship things than we ever have before, and it's everywhere. Which means the building and construction, which you're in, is one of the most needed and fastest growing sectors across all the industries.
It absolutely is. I want to say
Yeah.
that the average age of an electrician on the electrical side in our industry
Mhm.
is around 40 to 45. I mean,
Wow.
that's, we need some young people that understand how to use a lot of this technology to be able to do some of the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's
100%.
a powerful thing.
100%.
So,
Yeah. And I do think that that the career paths need to expand. We were, for so long, we just pushed college, right? And I with AI, you can learn so much faster now and be trained in different skills. I think we have to start to rethink that, right? To your
correct.
point about the workforce. And I really do think that there are going to be new ways. And I know there's some education companies out there already thinking about this.
Right. That's great. And honestly, Brent, that the pay that a lot of these guys make, I mean, they're going to 4 or 5 year trade school. These guys are making 6 figures when they turn out. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
need that's there. And you could go to college, get a college degree for 4 years, and you're making half of that starting out.
Yeah.
So
If you're lucky.
if you're
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah.
And then whether or not you're able to pay for it, or if you have debts, I mean, there's a lot associated with that, where we're union contractors, so our tradesmen are trained, certified. Their schooling's paid for. They get paid while they're working. I mean, there's just all these benefits to maybe looking at that avenue. We need people out there that can build this infrastructure. I mean, we see it every day, and without that technical knowledge, that power, and the younger generations that are out there now, especially my kids are falling that realm. They understand how this stuff works, and it's pretty cool to watch them use it.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say before I want you to tell everybody about Pro, but it's funny you say that about the kids, right? So my three girls, my youngest just graduated from college, so they're now in the workforce, all three. But they grew up right from the time they were maybe middle school with a phone in their hand. So social media to them is just second nature, right? This generation of kids now is going to grow up with AI. They're not going to know how it's such a monumental leap, right? Because where's AI going to be in a year or 2 years or 3 years, right? So I talked to my parents and their friends, and it's funny because they're like, wow, I remember, when we had the, cords on phones and this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but when the calculator came out, where you're like, hey, we still have to learn. When we came out with, automated assembly lines, of course you're going to use that technology. This is just the next evolution. I think people are overreacting about it because they just feel like it's going to take over everything. And look, 10 years from now, we'll maybe have a different conversation because it's evolving faster. But right now, it's a great tool to make businesses leaner. And I guess the last thing I say about that is, if you can take the mundane things and have AI and automation, take that out of someone's job, the morale goes up. They love their job more, right? So to me, that's the glass half full. And I hope people that watch this podcast, that's what they get out of it, right? The stories that you're telling about how you're making the mundane tasks of doing estimations so much more efficient so that people can actually use their brains to say, hey, that's not really right. We got to do these tweaking, but they don't have to do all the grunt work. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense. That's absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Bryan, thank you for spending time with us, for telling us all, God, I love getting into these kind of industries, manufacturing and building and construction, all the things that make our economy go, and you sharing your insights about how you're leveraging some of this technology to make things better there is fascinating to me. So thank you. But tell everybody, right? Again, we'll have all the links in the show notes, but tell everybody how to get in touch with you guys at Pro Electric.
Yeah. So we hit our website at www.proelectriclc.com. And myself personally, I'm on LinkedIn at Bryan, Bryan, J. Larson, Larson. Those are two pathways to get a hold of us there. Of course, plenty of social media and outlets that are out there as well. We all I think, try to partake in those, and that's one way to get a hold of us there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for just jumping on the podcast with us, and we will definitely keep tabs on you guys going forward.
Right, Brent. Appreciate you, bud. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, guys, that wraps up this episode of Future Proof. And like I said, just keep watching for more insights and industry knowledge, because AI is changing the game, but in a great way right now. So please just keep an open mind and understand where it really can help you improve your processes and your day-to-day operations. Thanks, guys.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.